Hello and welcome to Sports Check here on GhanaWeb TV. My name is Joseph Adamafio, and today we have the privilege of sitting down with Kwaku Yeboah once again. It's been a long time since we had him on the channel, but today we get to talk to him about Ghana at the 2023 AFCON. This is another opportunity for us to see if we can be able to end our 42-year wait for an AFCON title. And well, I'm going to pose the question to him if we can win the title. Dan, welcome to GhanaWeb.
Thank you, my brother.
You already know the first question. Can we win the title? 42 years wait. Everybody wants to know.
10, 15 years ago, the answer would have been a straight yes. But for some time now, we've been partaking in the AFCON as underdogs. And so it will be very dishonest on my part to sit here and say the Black Stars are going for the trophy. As a Ghanaian, I'll be very excited to see the Black Stars lift the trophy after over 40 years. But the reality is that we're entering into the competition as underdogs. And so it will depend on the illogicality of football. Because looking at the performances of the Black Stars in the past few years, it is not encouraging. Let's state the fact. If you are struggling to beat Comoros, Central African Republic, the Minus, it will be very difficult for me to sit here and boldly declare that the Black Stars are going to win the trophy. It will take the grace and the fact that football, they say, has its own way of disproving logic.
But here we are in the group where we have the record 7-time champions, Egypt, Cape Verde, and Mozambique. Would you say these are teams that are easy to beat because we've beaten Egypt before, but again, when it comes to the AFCON, it's a different ball game?
You know, if you check the record of the Black Stars in recent times, the last time the Black Stars beat a competitive team, in quote, was in 2021, almost 3 years ago, under Kwesi Appiah at the Cape Coast Stadium, when Ghana defeated South Africa. The rest of our matches, almost all the top teams we've met, it's not almost, all the top teams we've met, we've lost or drawn. During the World Cup qualification, we didn't beat Nigeria. It was the away goal rule that made Ghana qualify. So it is very difficult to predict that Ghana is even going to sail through the group stage. It happened to us in the last AFCON. I'm not saying it is going to repeat itself, but there's a precedent. Ghana, before the 2021 AFCON, had its worst record in 1984 when Coach Afrani took over the Black Stars from the late, what do you call it? After he was the coach and CK Jemfi, he was the coach and CK Jemfi was the technical director. Osam Dodu. Coach Afrani took over from Osam Dodu ahead of the 1984 AFCON after Ghana won the trophy in 1982, and it was a disaster. For the first time in our history after joining CAF in 1958, we won only one game and exited the tournament as defending champions. It was very shameful. But then Keto Kreku's FA broke the record in 2021. For the first time, we went into AFCON without a single point, without beating any team, and came back home. Okay, we got a single point, but without a single win. That's what I should have said. Without a single win. And Afrani, when we set the record in 1984, we got one win and came home with 3 points. But Kurt broke that record. Our worst record was broken in 2021. So in a group comprising of minnows like Mozambique, Cape Verde, Egypt, and Ghana, like I did indicate, 10, 15 years ago, everybody would have said Ghana will top the group, followed by Egypt, and then the whipping boys will follow. But today, it is difficult for me to predict. Cape Verde will be slippery, even though this is their 4th Nations Cup appearance. They've been very consistent ever since they started attending the Nations Cup. Mozambique, this is their 4th, even though they've been inconsistent. It is difficult to vouch. Black Stars playing against the Minnows now. If you can lose to Comoros and struggle against Central African Republic and Lesotho and the likes, it is difficult to predict how Ghana is going to fare in the group. But like I did say, football is illogical. Based on that, I can comfortably say Ghana can win the trophy. But in reality, if you are not being a Ghanaian, if you put patriotism aside and you are doing an objective analysis, it is difficult now to predict how the group is going to go. It is possible we might lose to Cape Verde. It is possible we might draw. It is possible we might win. It is not like the past when Ghana, whenever we play the minnows, people will just be asking of the goals Ghana scored. Now, anything at all could happen. Cape Verde, I was in Cape Verde in 2005 when Ghana defeated them ahead of the 2006 World Cup. At that time, we had a strong team. We had Stephen Appiah, Sule Muntari, Michael Essien, Derek Boateng, Platini, what's the name? Gordon Atram. They were all in action. But now, you can't say same of the Black Stars. So, honestly, if I'm objectively analyzing the group, I'll give Ghana the second slot for us to advance to the next stage. Maybe Cape Verde third, Mozambique last, Egypt top in the group. That would be the honest analysis of the group, because Egypt was a losing finalist in the last AFCON. Ghana could not even pick 3 points in the last AFCON. Quite apart from that, Egypt has been consistent, even though the team they had in the past is not the same. And mind you, anytime a West African country hosts the competition, Egypt tends to do well. In Burkina Faso 1998, they were champions. In Ghana 2008, they were champions. It is likely they will put up a good performance in La Côte d'Ivoire. So I will tip Egypt to top the group, Ghana second, and then the minnows will follow. Even this analysis, it's based on patriotic, tendencies. If I'm being objective, I wouldn't be surprised if we exit the first round.
Because the last time, if you had gotten a draw against Comoros, we would have made it with the the third place finish. But we couldn't even get the third place finish.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, that as a Ghanaian, and I belong to an industry that is dependent on the success of football and other sporting activities. So I would love to see the Black Stars lift the trophy. But objectively, before we kick the ball, before the tournament commences, no objective analyst will sit on radio and TV and rank Ghana as favorite. Let's be truthful to ourselves.
Now, let's look at the permutations. Cape Verde, first match. Second match, Egypt. Third match, Mozambique. People are saying that Cape Verde will play Egypt in the last match. If we don't win against Cape Verde beats Mozambique, and Cape Verde gets a draw against Egypt, or even loses, and maybe they get a draw against Ghana, we could see ourselves out. What should be the permutations? How do you think we should? What's the structure of winning, of results?
When we were kids, we were taught that anytime you see the rainbow in the skies, it means it's about to rain. When you hear Ghanaians advancing these arguments, it means they don't trust their Black Stars. It's as simple as that.
You have to start taking our calculators.
Exactly. If the tournament even hasn't kick-started and you have started the mathematics, it clearly tells you Ghanaians don't have the trust in the Black Stars. We are only hoping upon hope that the unexpected will happen. The team will prove us wrong. But for now, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Especially where, if you look at Chris Hughton, for whatever reason, all his first half performances are not good consistently. All the goals he scored in competitive games, he usually scored them in the second half, most of the goals. And so if we are unlucky and the opponent scores the first goal, we become unsettled. And in the second half, anything at all could happen. This team lacks agency. It lacks the fighting spirit that we used to see among the Stephen Appiahs and Eli Kinsons. Let's face it. When you watch, I'm sure those who watch the Black Stars against the U.S., if you looked at the sense of urgency with which the U.S. were tackling, clearing the balls, controlling the balls, running around, just oppose that against the Black Stars. And our attitude was simply lakadasika. And so it will be difficult. Let's be realistic with ourselves. Chris Hughton, I don't know whether he's lost the dressing room. There are rumors that his relationship with Keto Kreku has deteriorated. Others are even alleging that they are not even in talking terms. If that is true, I wouldn't be surprised that is the reason that has accounted for what we are seeing on the pitch. Because once the players lose confidence in you, they will hardly obey your commands. Let's pray something different happens. But for now, realistically, it is difficult.
Well, although it's difficult, looking at preparations, do you think we have prepared enough? 10 days of preparation.
One, our preparation isn't good. Two, the composition of our team isn't favorable. Why am I saying so? Out of the 27-man squad named by Egypt, 19 are home-based players. Immediately, you hear that one thing comes into mind: teamwork, telepathy, understanding. So once you are going into a tournament that is compact, you are assured of a good performance. So our composition isn't favorable because it is made up of foreign-based players who are scattered. And per the rules of modern-day football, you can never get your players to have enough training ahead of tournament. And so that is where our difficulty lies. It is, I don't know, because a few years ago, our strength as a team was in the midfield. When you had the likes of Sule Muntari, Stephen Appiah, Lai Kinsing, and Anthony Annan and co took over from that generation. Unfortunately, Ghana is now having issues with our midfield. We don't have strikers because legendary Asamoah Gyan is no more. The midfield that used to be our strength has also been weakened. So there's a problem. And I would want to advise Chris Hughton, even though my advice might not fly. I don't know why, even when we meet the Minos, Chris Hughton would want to play two defensive midfielders. It makes playing the ball difficult, playing the ball forward difficult. You have Salis. You have Ashimeru. Baba Idrusu is too defensive-minded for my liking. And so I would prefer that he plays Ashimeru, Salis, and Richmond Lamte as the pivot to help in the distribution. If you could inject some confidence in that boy, he's a good material. If you could inject some confidence in Richmond Lamte to be the pivot and push Ashimeru and Salis forward, our midfield will gel. But I doubt, because even in a friendly game against Namibia, he couldn't gather the courage to feature Richmond Lamte. But for me, if you are playing a Mino like Mozambique and you are playing two defensive midfielders, it means you don't trust yourself. If you are playing a Mino like Cape Verde and you are playing two defensive midfielders, there's a problem. That is the reason why we can't score goals. Because once you play defensive midfielders, the possibility of moving forward is reduced. And so that would be my advice, that if you will listen, you should feature Salis, Richmond Lamte as the pivot, and Ashimeru, so we could get some balls going forward for Inaki and co.
What do you think is the fear, or what do you think makes these coaches not field the local players? Because back in the days, Solomon Asante was playing at the AFCON despite being a local player. But these days, you have local players and they can't even make it to the starting lineup.
First of all, there's no conscious effort to improve the standard of our league. Those who are running our football are interested in raising the players and selling them, including the sitting FA president. He's on record to have said he owns 5 football clubs. And the primary objective of the 5 football clubs is to raise and sell. Even though he did not state them, it is clear. If you have 5 football clubs without owning, what do you call it? If you have 5 football clubs without owning 1 football pitch, what is the rationale of the 5 football clubs? You are raising and selling. There's no future for the boys on the local scene. We have built a system where even if you travel to Togo, you are regarded as a top professional. Playing in the local league is gradually becoming a case because there's no conscious effort to develop the league. If Ghana were serious, we could have easily devised a strategy to include local players in any of our call-ups, especially the Black Stars. And Anyanteji advanced this argument that every call-up, there's a percentage of players who will just go and sit on the bench, eat, take per diem, bonuses, and leave without Ghana profiting. So if as a country we want to develop our league, why can't we legislate? Why can't the FA legislate that, okay, for every Black Stars call-up, If it is 27, 7 will be from the local scene, 5 will be from the local scene. One, it will put pressure on the local, on the coach of the Black Stars to work, to watch the league across the country will be traveling. 2, it will motivate the boys. 3, it would improve branding of the league. If anybody is watching is watching the league on Star Times and he's told that player ABC is from the they play for the Black Stars and they are in the Premier League, it sort of gives the league a certain image. So these are some of the advantages. In 2010, ahead of the World Cup, the English FA did something. He realized that the English Premier League's popularity keeps increasing, but the national team's fortunes were dwindling. So immediately there was a legislation that players fielded by the various clubs, be it Chelsea or Liverpool or whatever, a certain percentage should be of English descent. And that thing has worked. And look at the results on the English national team today. Why can't we do the same to assist our league? But we don't care. So if our local players are not getting call-ups into the national team, it is because there is no deliberate agenda to improve the standard, to help the image of the league, and to help the local boys. The system that is being enjoyed by football administrators in this country, who are themselves club owners, is raising and selling. And until we change, nothing good is going to happen to our local league.
Well, you are still watching Sports Check here on GhanaWeb TV. We are taking a short break, and when we return, we'll talk some more. In fact, we'll talk about which team he believes can win the AFCON aside Ghana, and also if the DIU should start matches, and how we can get the best out of Kudus and Inaki at this year's AFCON. Welcome back from the break. You are still watching Sports Check here on GhanaWeb TV, and we are building up to the 2023 AFCON. And Ivory Coast, well, the Black Stars will be hoping to end Ghana's 42-year wait for an AFCON title. I'm here with the veteran himself, Dan Kwaku Yeboah. Dan, I'm sure several years since you've covered the Black Stars, you've not seen anything like behind closed doors. Behind closed doors. This year, the mantra has been behind closed doors, to the extent that our coach is telling us that the game against Namibia, he wanted it to be behind closed doors, and in fact, it was to that effect. Would this yield good results, and also do you think it's driving fans away from the team?
Behind closed doors is no new. It's not new, I must say. It's not new to association football. But then there's a certain trend when it comes to how the Black Stars is run by this FA. For instance, ahead of the Ghana Comoros away game, the GFA issued a release stating the training regimen of the Black Stars. And in the release, they stated that all the training schedules of the Black Stars in Kumasi will be behind closed doors. Unfortunately for them, they wrote that the Black Stars were going to play in Comoros. They were going to train in Comoros. But that one, there was no behind closed doors against it. So some of us started raising questions that indeed, if the decision to train behind closed doors is a technical one, or is based on technical reasons, why is it that the ordinary Ghanaian is being denied access? The ordinary Ghanaians whose tax is used to run the Black Stars is being denied access. But the Comoros, who is our opponent, who would also have the benefit of recording the training and analyzing our training over there, we are allowing the fans and everybody to come and watch it for free. We spoke to Henry Asante and he ascribed it to the coach. He said, oh, that was the coach's decision. But when they realized the pressure was mounting, they went against their own release and allowed the fans to enter. So clearly, it tells you there's an agenda. If indeed it is a technical reason, no amount of media pressure should cause you to change it. But when the media started mounting pressure of limiting Ghanaian public access to the Black Stars, they changed the very program they issued. So that is where my worry stems from. As for behind closed doors, it is normal in association football. But when it seems, or it is made to seem, that there's a deliberate attempt to limit Ghanaians from accessing their Black Stars, that's where my worry is. And I hope the ministry would impress on the FA to have a second look at their posturing when it comes to letting Ghanaians have access to the Black Stars. With respect to the recent camping, I agree with them. It is a few days to the tournament, and they needed to seclude the team and give them peace of mind. But in the past, the attempt to limit access to the team seems to be becoming unusual. So maybe the ministry can impress upon them, because to a large extent, whether we like it or not, the national team flourishes when the spirit of the nation is behind it. When Ghanaians feel a part of it, it boosts the morale of the team and help the team to flourish. So we have to take a second look at it, because it looks like sometimes, not all the time, sometimes there's a deliberate attempt to hijack the team from the ordinary Ghanaian supporter, and for me, it doesn't add up.
Now looking at this particular team that has not been rated as favorites, a lot of people are starting to say, oh, anytime the Black Stars go to the AFCON and they are not favorites, they end up doing very well. This is a team that has gone through a number of difficulties. Now people are reflecting on 2010 as one of the tickets that we can vouch on, that okay, the Black Stars are going there as not too much of a favorite, so they can possibly surprise Ghanaians. Are we going to see that at the AFCON, maybe go to the final like 2010?
It is easy to make that convenient argument. One thing Ghanaians have forgotten is that it is not about entering the tournament as underdogs that will make you do well. Ghana had a 5-year development plan under Ben Kofi, out of which we got John Mensah, Sule Muntari, Derek Boateng, Adukwe Papo, Gordon Atram, Stephen Appiah, that generation. So between 2002, when the 5-year development plan started, if you remember, ahead of the Mali 2002 AFCON, we dropped a lot of the senior players and took the players who are supposed to be used as the development agenda or the development tool. We took them there. So the country benefited from that agenda from 2002 up to 2006. By 2006 and afterwards, it started dwindling. There was diminishing returns. And so if we had vision, there should have been another plan. But there was no plan. So between 2007 and 2010, we were still feeding on the leftovers of the 5-year development plan until the whole thing became exhausted. So the idea of, when we enter into tournament as underdogs, we do well, citing Angola 2010 as an example, is neither here nor there. In Angola 2010, we still had the leftovers of the 5-year development plan. Olele Kinson was still part of us. Kwadwo Samuel was still part of us. Asamoah Gyan was still part of us. At least Samuel Nkum and co. We had players that we had groomed according to a certain plan. But what do we have today? If we hear Cristiano Yeboah, once there's Yeboah attached to his name, he might be a Ghanaian. Let's go chasing him. That is the policy we are running today. It is no more a 13-year development policy, but it's about searching through the diaspora and getting Ghanaians with Ghanaian parentage and bringing them in. Once you bring them in, there are a lot of issues. Trying to inculcate them into the team, getting them to know our culture, getting them to be committed, there are a lot of issues. So between getting your own development plan and combing the diaspora for players who bear Ghanaian names, one is better than the other.
Well, I hope we've gotten our answers to all that. But let's look at the team properly. Partey is not going to be at this year's AFCON. Several years ago, we said we were building the team around Partey as the next generation. Here is the case that he's not here for the AFCON. Will he be missed?
Certainly. Partey's contribution to the team cannot be overemphasized. But for Partey, Ghana wouldn't have qualified for the World Cup. We shouldn't lose sight of that fact. There are games that he has failed to perform. But even that, I don't blame him. I blame the coaches. Because I was the spokesperson of the FA and for that matter the Black Stars in 2019. When the tournament started, we were assigning Partey a defensive role. And there were suggestions that he should be pushed forward as an offensive midfielder. When Kwesi Appiah listened and did that, it worked out. Partey was doing so well. He had a very good tournament. Against Nigeria, when he was pushed forward, he was doing well. So I do not know why some coaches prefer Partey playing a defensive role, especially when he plays with the Black Stars. So his impact cannot be written off. His absence will affect us. That notwithstanding, the other players that we have to rely on, because there's nothing we can do about the situation. We have to go and fight on. Ashimeru and Co would have to live up to expectation and get us the trophy, hopefully.
Well, aside Partey, one of the players who has garnered a lot of controversy is our captain, Dede Ayew. The controversy has to do with he starting in the team. Now people believe that his experience is needed, but he should start from the bench. What are your thoughts on that?
In all honesty, Dede Ayew is one player that the public, and for that matter, Ghanaians, haven't been fair to. Because he's shown so much commitment. I've watched Dede Ayew injured, shoulder dislocated, in bandage, playing for Ghana. I've watched Dede Ayew with blood oozing from his head, bandage, playing for Ghana. I've seen Dede Ayew urging his under-20 colleagues on to win the World Cup for Ghana. I'm not saying he's a perfect player, but he's one player that I feel we have been so unfair to when it comes to overly criticizing him. I'm not saying he shouldn't be criticized. We all do criticize sometimes, but sometimes we overdo it. The day's experience, we need it at the AFCON. If Chris decides to play the day, for me, it's good. He has the experience. If he decides otherwise, it is his decision. But the day's inclusion is very vital for me.
Should he start from the bench?
If you look at the team now, there's no experienced player in the team. If he starts, it will be a good thing for us.
Well, let's look at how we can make good use of Kudus. When we see Kudus play at Ajax, we are really astonished with his performance. He moved to West Ham. He's doing tremendously well. 10 goals so far in all competitions for West Ham. But when it comes to the Black Stars, it has to do with how we play and how he's positioned. Do you think we must make Kudus more free up front so that he can bring out the best in him?
If I were Chris, I will give Kudus that free room to operate, because it is evidently clear that whenever he's given the free room to operate, he does well. At club level, Chris has had the opportunity of watching him live, and he sees the role he's assigned, and he performs it to perfection. So I do not see why he should be restricted when it comes to the Black Stars. We should get the combative midfielders to do the work for him and then assign him that free role, because he's nimble-footed, he's smart, he is talented, he can do one-on-one very well, and if we give him the needed supplies and allow him to do the roaming, to a large extent it will help us. I don't know why Chris will restrict Kudus, honestly.
Well, one of the players who has also struggled to score goals in the Black Stars has to do with Inaki Williams. This time we are talking about 3 strikers, but when you look at our wingers, some of them too are strikers and all that. But looking at Inaki, we even saw in the game against Namibia where some of the fans were booing at the players for delaying in sending him passes. Do you think the Black Stars have to focus mainly on how they can make sure Inaki gets the right ball so that they can feed him to score more goals? Is this something you have to work on at training?
It has taken too long a time for Chris to build his attacking options around Inaki. For me, I'm a Barca fan. I watch La Liga a lot. In fact, La Liga is the only foreign league I watch. I occasionally watch the EPL when there are big games like City, United, Liverpool, whatever. But I watch the La Liga, and I know the potency of Inaki in front of goal. So any good coach will build his attacking initiatives around Inaki. When he came anew, we thought that, well, it was too fresh. The coach doesn't know him that well. His colleagues are not familiar with him. But now we shouldn't be experiencing what we saw against Namibia. He's somebody who times his runs. He knows when to take off. So the midfielders, the coach should invite the 3 midfielders and Inaki and speak to them that try and understand the body language of Inaki. Because if we are able to supply him the balls, believe you me, he's a clinical finisher. And I don't know why it hasn't become a headache for Chris. That for a player who scores at will at club level, he struggles at the national team. It tells you that there's something the coach ought to do. And I don't know why Chris, top-notch as he is, it has taken him such a long time to see that problem. I spoke to Ajimambedu one day and he said, you know what? If I were part of the Black Stars, even if the coach wasn't doing it, I will personally speak to Inaki because I know he can score when I supply him the ball. So we should be up and doing. The players themselves should be up and doing. If not, it is the ultimate responsibility of Chris Hughton. You should let it work because you can't have Inaki and be struggling. This is a player that used to dribble Piqué and Puyol and those big players in the La Liga. So I don't know why we have Inaki and we are struggling to get goals. Honestly, Chris is not helping us when it comes to connecting Inaki very well with the midfielders.
Lastly, one of the big issues in the Blasters has to do with selfishness and self-glorification. You see sometimes teammates have to pass the ball to another player who is in the best position to score and they want personal glory. Is this something that the Blasters players should shun? What would be your advice?
Well, trying to be individualistic and selfish has really affected Ghana over the years. It is not only this generation. The sort of players we had in the Senegal 92 team, if they were united, if there was that team spirit, you could have easily lifted the Senegal 92 trophy. Eddie Ansah, Tony Bafo, Kwesi Appiah, Kofi Frimpong Manson, Ama Senegal, Safu Jemfi, Odate Lamte, Yapreku, Prince Opoku Poli, Ali Ibrahim, Abedi Pele. Excellent squad, even on the bench, Kofi Abre, Opokunti. But for lack of teamwork and lack of team spirit, we couldn't lift the trophy. And that is what the coach ought to work on. That it is about Ghana. It is about the glory of the team. At the end of the day, if you become the top scorer in the competition and Ghana fails to go beyond the group stage, your record amounts to nothing. So the coach ought to let the players know that at this stage, it's about Ghana. And that is why I feel the sports ministry should have devised a different strategy of rewarding the Black Stars, especially as far as this AFCON is concerned. I had the opportunity to interact with the sports minister, and I told him that, you know what, there's a saying that it is only a fool who does the same thing every time and expect a different results. Over the years, we have practiced paying winning bonuses. It didn't work out. We have practiced paying qualification bonus. It didn't work out. They are still working with a qualification bonus system. For me, it doesn't add up. The reason being that it's a group of 4 or 5, isn't it? You can decide to win one game, draw one game, and advance to the next stage and lose the 1/16 stage. if we are paying $10,000 per game, and you are playing 3 matches at the group stage, you win 1, draw 1, and advance as the second team or wins the second spot, it means that you are paying $30,000 per player. The next stage, if you are ousted, you come home empty-handed. The nation bleeds. The players line their pocket with $30,000. For me, it doesn't add up. For the first time, I was expecting the ministry to have inculcated patriotism in the Black Stars. That boys, we've paid you winning bonus, it didn't work out. We've paid you qualification bonus and it didn't work out. For the first time, we are tying your reward to the trophy. We are paying you per diems alone. If we agree that you are taking $10,000 per game, fair enough, it should be on paper. We are playing about 7 or 8 matches to bring the trophy. So if you are playing 7 matches to bring the trophy, $10,000 times 7 is $70,000. We are paying you per diem till the finals. Leave the trophy, we're going to double your $70,000 and give you $140,000 or $150,000 per player. This is something every Ghanaian would have supported. I don't know why they still want to stick to the qualification system, the qualification bonus system, where you win 2 matches, take about $30,000 per player at the group stage. When you advance to the next stage and you are ousted, the nation loses millions of dollars. The players line their pockets with money, and the nation will be turned into football discussions laced with insult and insinuations and blame games. I don't know why the ministry couldn't gather courage to do that.
Well, one of the things that we've heard ahead of the AFCON has to do with the budget to be ready after the AFCON. Now we're going about this is serious.
Well, it all boils down to the fact that the ministry is very much aware that the public is not in support of their reward system. Because if you know you have the backing of the public when it comes to reward systems, it is easy to let them know. I always say that if you are crossing a border where they are checking cocaine or weed and you don't have some in your pocket, you just surrender and let them inspect your pocket or search your pocket. But when you have those goods in your pocket, you argue with whoever is going to check you. So this is a clear indication that they know that Ghanaians are not comfortable with the reward system they have put in place. Other than that, it is the taxpayers' money, for Christ's sake. When the government of Ghana is going to build an infrastructure, the cost is not made known after the building. So when government is about embarking on any project, the estimate is done, made public before the project is executed. So why this one? It tells you that they know that Ghanaians are not happy with their system of rewarding the Black Stars. Because if they had done what I'm saying, that Ghanaians, for the first time, let's all be patriotic. Let's back our Black Stars to win the trophy. The trophy is the target. We are paying the players per diem. Their remunerations or rewards are tied to the trophy. Every Ghanaian would have clapped for the government and the ministry. But because they know what they are doing, the public would disagree. That's why they are hiding. They will come back and tell us a lot of stories.
Well, as we wrap up, last question. If Ghana doesn't win the AFCON, which 5 teams will you tip to win that AFCON?
Of course, you can't rule out the losing finalist, Egypt, more especially because they've been very consistent with their team building effort. Having about as many as 19 local players in your team is no mean an achievement. Of course, Senegal is also doing well. Nigeria could pull a surprise. La Côte d'Ivoire, since the inception of the tournament, I think this is the 34th edition, 11 host countries have won the trophy. It is possible Côte d'Ivoire could pull that surprise as well. So I'm going for Egypt, Senegal, La Côte d'Ivoire, Nigeria, and my country, Ghana.
If Ghana is not there?
Well, if Ghana is not there, Morocco.
Morocco?
Yes.
You think they've done well in terms of...
Oh, yes. You know, I've always said that if you do a research, no country in this world has developed with liberal democracy. No country. Not even the Western world that espouse democracy. there's always an element of dictatorship. There's always an element of force behind their structures. And that is why Morocco is doing well. The man in charge of football in Morocco is the finance minister. So there's a direct link between football and government. There's a direct link between football and government investment. And that's why they've done national academies across the country, and it's yielding results. It was evident in the most recent World Cup. So I wouldn't rule out Morocco. So I'll go for Morocco, La Côte d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Senegal, and Egypt.
All right. So you heard from the veteran himself, Kwaku Yeboah, on his top 5 favorites to win the AFCON. Well, this is where we draw down the curtains for Sports Check here on GhanaWeb TV. My name is Joseph Adamafio. Until we meet again, we'll meet in Ivory Coast. Yeah.